Welcome to the Stacey Salyer Show, the podcast for property management leaders ready to think bigger about growth. I'm Stacey Salyer and the only acquisition strategist in this industry who sat on all sides of the M&A table. I've been the buyer, acquiring a 370-door competitor during COVID using seller financing. I've been the seller, building and exiting a 7-figure business. And I've been the corporate evaluator as director of acquisitions, assessing over hundreds of companies nationally. That means I know exactly what you're thinking, what you're missing, and what actually works when it comes to buying and integrating in this space. On this show, we dig into acquisitions as a real business tool, not luck, not someday. You'll learn positioning, strategy, numbers, and integration from someone who's actually done it all. Let's go. Today, I have on a great guest. We have been friends for a while in the industry, and he is the process guy when it comes to property management. So I want to welcome Ben with Black Sheep Global to my show today.
Thanks, Stacey. Happy to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So Ben, why don't we dive right in? For those of my guests who are listening who don't know you yet, I'm sure they would love to know a little bit more, like Black Sheep Global. What is it? What do you do? Where do you come from? Why are you the process guy?
Sure. So maybe I'll start with the beginning, and when we get to the end, I'll stop.
Yeah, sounds great.
A very vague reference to a movie I can't remember the title of, but all right. So processes. So I've been in the property management world for the last 6 years or so now. And like many, I entered the property management world unintentionally. But perhaps like few, it was not because I was a realtor who happened to start managing some properties. Rather, I started working for a vendor in the property management space and just kind of fell in love with the world of property management. Interestingly, I had actually tried to manage my own properties and found that I was horrible at it.
Okay.
I tried that once. I'm like, nope, this is not my forte. And then invested in a few properties, a financial guy, and helped start up a small management company that's still running today up in other Wisconsin, and then transitioned fully into the space of being a vendor. So yeah, I've been in this space of process, nerddom, technology, everything related to building tools and technology for property management companies for quite a while now. And I've worked with about 250 different companies. As far as more about what we do,
Right.
To be a little bit more specific about that, I know saying process is kind of a buzzword and rather unspecific. To bring that a little bit more together, we help businesses that are experiencing the chaos that is small business ownership build structure and systems to run the company that allow you to have consistent outcomes, great accountability within the business, and really help you to plan longer term for your company so that you have a stable asset, which is what a business ought to be.
Awesome. I love it. Well, I know I talk a lot, obviously, about buying and selling on the show because that's what it's about, property management companies. But I am a huge proponent of making sure that your foundation is really good, right? I mean, I love a good SOP myself. I've even said that. So I thought it'd be fun to have you on today to kind of talk about maybe what you've seen with some companies you've worked with that have worked on acquiring or maybe acquired, or share some really fun, gory detail stories. Everybody loves a good story. So, and kind of why it's important to have things documented. I mean, I know myself, I can attest, raise my hand. It's really important to have everything super documented and communication and have things flow. And maybe we'll dive into a little bit more too of how your valuation can rise if you've got things flowing smoothly and documented and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, would you want to kind of dive in a little bit and tell us maybe some areas that you've seen that have worked really well and what happened when you work with some companies?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that I observe the owners of property management companies. I think this is true about most owners of any companies, and that is that they typically are pretty aggressive people. Bad thing. And it's really necessary in the world of business ownership. You have to take risks and jump into things, and sometimes you don't think through all the ramifications. But it leads to opportunity, right? Because you're willing to take the risk. Now, from the operator side of the equation, obviously risk equals bad. So we're not going to fall to the side of making the complicated, risky choice very commonly. But in order for your business to sustain growth and become more valuable time over time, it is necessary for there to be some kind of stability. So just to bring in maybe some stories and ideas here, I have a client who started with us, I want to say about 3 years ago. And at the time that they joined us, they had about maybe 85, 90 doors.
Okay.
So on the smaller side, established, growing, definitely making things happen. But they had realized, because the owner was not only aggressive, but also an engineer, which is an interesting side note, that they had to have processes. And in this case, they had brought on Lead Simple, and that technology was exactly what they were looking for. They just didn't have the time to build it,
Okay.
right? They knew they needed processes. They already had that. They had crossed that bridge, right? There wasn't a, do we even need technology in the business? Kind of a question that was outstanding. They knew it, but they needed someone to really hold their hand through that process. So we started working with them and began building out processes for the 85 door company that they had at the time. I didn't know it when we started, but that owner had very aggressive growth plans. And as we worked with them up to, I think it was about 120 doors, he reached out to us and said, hey, I've got a deal coming up and we're going to buy another company. So we need you to help us get ready for that because we know it's going to be chaotic. And again, he had the wherewithal to know that things were going to be challenging. So what we ended up doing for them is really just focusing in on onboarding. And ultimately what ended up happening is they were able to go from 120 to 250 doors through that one acquisition. And they did that with 3 team members.
Really?
Because they had processes in place.
Wow. Now, do you remember if they had any high churn or anything? Because I hear that all the time, the myth of, oh, I'm going to lose all these
Excellent
doors.
question. I don't remember specifically,
Okay.
but the fact that I don't remember specifically, I think is probably a good thing, because if it had been bad, I would have heard about it.
Right.
In my opinion, that high churn comes from friction, right?
Mhm.
If you have a friction-full process, you will lose clients. And what we did with that, with our client, was to make it as friction-free as possible. We remodeled their existing onboarding process. We basically created a second version of it for all of the new properties that already had existing ownership agreements and tenants in place, and like all of the chaos that happens when you are taking on an existing book of business. And because of that, they had a, relatively speaking, pretty seamless transition to dramatically increasing the number of doors under management. And because, of course, they're kind of bringing everything on, some of it's mid-lease, some of it's at the end of the lease, it was able to fall into the rest of their processes, which already accommodated for lease turns that happened every 12 months or so. And all the other processes just clicked in place because we had set it up, that we had set the board correctly for them to be successful. So yeah, that's one example of some of the work that we do. And that company has continued to do additional acquisitions. They've grown a good bit now. I think they're closer to 300 doors now, and they have a few more people on their team, but they're positioning themselves for another big sprint in growth. And they're working on doing other acquisitions in their market. So it's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so again, they went from how many doors to?
I think their acquisition point, they were at about 120 doors.
Okay.
And they went from 120 to 250.
Okay. Wow.
That's basically doubled.
Yeah, basically doubled, 3 people. But what I'm hearing you say is that they had a really good solid foundation already. You were able to basically go in and duplicate their onboarding process, but tailor it to just acquiring, which.
That's right. And I think what's really important about that is that they overbuilt the system because they knew there was going to be a future stressor. They didn't just build the business for, here's where we are today, let's fix these problems that we're feeling right now. We did that, but then we built things for stuff that we knew was going to happen because it was the direction the company was going.
Okay.
And I think that made a massive difference.
Okay. And so when you're working with somebody, if like I was going to come to you as a PMC owner, are you actually kind of working in more of a consulting type role? You're going to talk with me, maybe interview me, talk about, okay, well, where are you now? What are your future plans? What's your 1, 3, 5-year goal, or that kind of thing? Is that something that you incorporate into your process?
Great question. So our typical sales process, if you will, is much more about investigating the culture.
Oh, okay.
And so we dig a great deal into the technologies for sure, right? We need to know kind of what's the playing field. But what I've observed in this space of systems building is that culture is usually the root issue. And oftentimes there is a culture that is unintended.
Okay.
Because it's happened, right? And again, this is super typical. You have your your property or your management company owner who is the entrepreneur who has the guts and the grit to go try to do something hard, right? And their attitude is usually, come what may, I'm going to make this happen, right? Which is the right person to be in that seat.
Right.
Usually their number two is the operator who might be a little cranky, a little bit mean, really holds the line and makes things happen. Also, very important person to have in that seat. And then once you have those two people, then you need people who are just operators who get stuff done. Obviously, the game changes as you go along, and you need to bring in someone who's really hungry for sales and someone who loves people, who can handle all of your HR needs, and someone who's got their nose to the grindstone on all the numbers. Like, all these people are necessary. But in that early stage, you usually have your devil-may-care owner, and everything is a little bit crazy.
Right. Chaotic.
No. And it's okay, right? This is just the initiation of a business. It's how businesses are born.
Absolutely.
It's chaotic.
Yep.
But in order to go from chaos to order, there has to be some sort of outside motivation for order to exist. Because otherwise, it's just going to continue to be more and more chaotic.
Right. Okay. And so when you're meeting with like that chaotic entrepreneur, I mean, we all know and love them ourselves even. Most of us probably looking in the mirror. Do you find yourself is it easier to maybe work with the operator type person? Like maybe once you kind of get set up, or is there an easier personality to work with in regards?
That's a good question. Again, you kind of need both.
Okay.
I know I didn't really answer your earlier question you asked about, do we get into 1, 3, and 5 year plans and all that? Yes, we do talk about that. But when we're talking about the origination of the idea, there's so much of it that is tied to how does the business run and who does this business want to be, that often isn't defined.
Right. Okay.
Most, and I hate to say this, but I've spoken to many different groups of property managers, and I try to ask them, who in this room has a 5-year plan?
Mm-hmm.
And without fail, it's 10% of people.
Okay.
And that's not to be a diss at all. It's really hard to have old plans in place. Personally, at Black Sheep, we just about 9 months ago, we finally got our 1, 3, and 5-year plans in place. And then we have our big 10-year vision that we're shooting for. And it takes a lot of that happens. So no disrespect there, but it is a challenging thing. To answer your question, though, about who we like to work with, we actually really like the chaotic entrepreneur because we feel like we can help them capture that energy that they bring and turn it into something that's really directed.
I love that.
And we don't see ourselves as a replacement for having that person on the team who's kind of your hard-nosed stated policy person. That's kind of, you need that person. But where we see ourselves studying is really in the technical executor seat, if you will. Okay. And honestly, we do work in that type of relationship as kind of a fractional CTO for a lot of our clients, where they come to us with, here's a problem. We need you to fix this. And let's brainstorm until we figure out a solution. And more often than not, we're able to apply some type of technological solution to those problems. And that's often how it ends up.
Okay. I love that. That's cool. So if you've got a story, maybe tell us a very challenging one or something where in hindsight, if you could go back in time and maybe meet with that client before they made some crazy decision or something like that. I don't know if you've got something where, whether it's around acquisition or just growth in general, I'm kind of curious because I know on the flip side, like I talk to obviously a lot of PMC owners too. And sometimes I'm honestly quite shocked and amazed at how people are running their processes and on really large teams. And I just kind of wonder, I'm like, when are those wheels going to fall off?
Yeah, I think it's really, I agree with you. It's fascinating to see how so many operators, again, regardless of whether we're in the property management world or not, I know we're talking about property management, but I want property managers to know that they are not alone in this.
100%. Any small business, for sure.
Any small business, it is amazing how growth can happen despite the owner. When you're at that beginning, right, and it's all guts and grit and we're just going to force this to happen, it's amazing, right? But as soon as there's any level of consistency needed, then that's not so amazing. It's a lot harder for most entrepreneurs to fall into a consistent, I do the same thing day after day, month after month, year after year,
Right.
and achieve steady growth out of that. We're typically, I say we as entrepreneurs are typically much better at sprints.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean,
So
we get
yeah,
bored, right? I mean, we're always off onto some new idea.
yeah. And I think that actually leads into a story I'll share with you here because it's pretty relevant and illustrates the point well. So we had a client who came to us, I want to say about 2 years ago. And at the time, I think they had about 1,000 doors under management. And interestingly, this company at the time, I want to say they had close to 40 employees.
Wow. That's a lot.
It was a lot. And what I learned as we talked with them through our sales process is they had effectively no systems that were documented. Everything happened in spreadsheets that were owned by individual people, things that are not shared on whiteboards, on sticky notes, in people's email inboxes. And the beauty of this was, again, they had grown to this level despite their inefficiencies. And the how for that is that they had hired really, really excellent people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That is the patchwork that allows businesses to go from little bitty business to much bigger business without having systems. You hire really great people.
Right.
The problem with really great people is they're irreplaceable.
Right.
Right. So in the case of this company, they had built to about 1,000 doors. They had a large, but wonderful team of great people, but they were starting to feel the pinch of growth, making things a lot more challenging because the owner, in a typical aggressive entrepreneur mode, was literally buying new businesses probably once a month. And small acquisitions, right? Nothing massive. It would be 10 doors here, 50 doors here, as much as a regular, some typical client might bring in. It wasn't a huge deal, but it was just enough friction that it was causing his onboarding team to just be mad all the time because there was no smooth onboarding process. There was no smooth sales process. There was no clear way for those new deals to enter their pipeline, get assigned to the right person, make sure they were onboarded properly, all the right information is collected, new leases are put in place, like all of those things, while they needed to be done, and in some cases they were being done, it was just done in the most friction-y possible way that could be done.
Right.
And so the conversation with that business owner, when I initially talked with him, was like, how do I keep my team from murdering me, right? Because I am trying to grow this company, but everyone's really mad at me right now. And I need to keep growing because how else do we keep the business alive? But I also need to take care of my team.
Right.
How do I do this? So it really, again, kind of came back to culture. Like,
Yeah.
how do I create a culture where we can grow?
Right.
And the answer was they needed documented systems, right? They needed tools that the front line of the company was able to rely on that allowed them to handle those new deals every time they came through, whether it was a new owner or another company that they acquired. And they've continued on that acquisition mode,
Right.
funny enough. But there was a point there at the beginning of our relationship where I had to say to that company owner, you need to stop buying new companies. And that was a funny thing. I never thought I would have to say that to anyone. It's when your kid says something ridiculous of like, how are these words coming out of my mouth right now?
Right.
And it was I think it was a bit of a lightning bolt realization for him. Oh, I'm the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah.
And all of this friction would go away if I would stop behaving the way that I'm behaving.
Right.
And so ultimately what needed to happen was that behavior needed to be channeled and needed to be channeled through process. So we build processes for them. And I'm not sure the current door count. I want to say there's somewhere about 1,700 doors now, but that company has continued to grow. They did take a break
Right.
from doing any acquisitions.
Right.
And we have continued to work with them to build out their systems. And they interestingly kind of restructured how they were set up internally with that reliance on great people. Their model was a portfolio model.
Interesting.
And so they have switched to a departmental model, which in my opinion works a lot better as you're scaling a company.
Yeah.
And that has allowed them to receive the new business and to be much more efficient and to have the systems that supported the growth. So yeah.
Yeah. And I bet the team feels so much better going to work. I mean, it's
So much.
everybody, yeah, you just want to do a good job, no matter what you're doing, whatever your role is.
And it's a night and day difference in the relationship because in that situation, and for many of our other clients, we try to have conversations with the team too before we move forward with working with anyone. And the culture truly has changed. People are happy and not stressed. And yeah, there's still things that happen, right? It's property management. You're dealing with people, you're dealing with houses, stuff goes wrong.
Sure.
But comparatively to 2 years ago, night and day.
Right. Yeah. And it sounds like the owner just had to take a short pause on acquiring and that is a smart thing to do. I mean, the last thing you want to do is go out and be spending money, whether it's like door by door and you're still spending money on marketing and time, or it's you're acquiring 50 doors from a realtor or whatever. I mean, it still costs you time and money. And to take that little pause, get everything in order, get your team happy again, probably reconfigure. I mean, even staffing. I mean, I don't know if they still have the same amount of staff, but and do all of that and get everybody not hating the owner, not loving the owner.
It's a very important component of building a business. You can't have your team hating you, right?
No.
There needs to be some good copacetic relationships, but it doesn't happen if you don't have systems in place.
100%. Yeah. So I think instead of calling you the process guy, I think I'm going to start calling you the culture guy. You're the culture company, which is actually really cool because I think that is something that, I mean, even talking to you now, I don't think a lot of us really dive deeper into ourselves and think about, oh, well, our company culture actually is probably the most important thing because everything else just is kind of a result of that. And it really makes a big difference too when you're acquiring, because it sounds like that particular client really didn't know what his company culture was, like his identity. He didn't know.
He was disconnected from you completely.
Yeah, he didn't know his company identity. He probably knew his identity somewhat, but then being able to figure that out, because then when you're going out to acquire, you need to know who you are and what your company is before you go out and buy something else, because otherwise you might be buying something that doesn't even match.
Yeah. A good friend of mine gave me a book many years ago. I think it was the Harvard Business Review's Guide to Buying a Small Business. This is before I was in any meaningful business, anything. And I remember reading it, and it talked about planning and building a business plan and all these things about planning. And I was like, whatever, I'm just going to go and do the thing that's going to make me the money, and that's going to work out great. And the reality of all this is, as you go in and you start making the money, it becomes very relevant to have a plan. And there's a level of growth will never be achieved without significant thought and investment of time. It won't happen, right? You'll hit a ceiling and you will go no further until you force that level of growth to happen.
Right.
I think that's a much more personal thing than it is a business thing. Just the act of disciplining yourself to put your thoughts into collated form that makes sense, that can be executed.
Right. 100%. But how cool is it? Yeah. To intertwine all of that and really, yeah.
Actually, side note, I mean, you said it here, right? We're doing more culture things. That is one of the offers that I wanted to mention on this recording is we're actually doing a process culture workshop.
Oh.
And if that's something that listeners want to find out more about, feel free to reach out to me. I'll make sure that my email and contact is in the show notes and everything, but I'd love to talk to anyone who's interested in that more. I think it's just incredibly important.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. So a process culture workshop, is that going to be offered online?
Great question. Yes, it is 100% remote. It usually takes place over 2 calls. We have some extended conversations, typically about an hour and a half to 2 hours. We do 2 of those. And you walk away from that conversation having a 90-day plan to change your company culture. And it's very tactical, right? It's not just, hey, here's some woo-woo stuff that we wrote down that makes you feel good. There is some of that because I think that's important too, but it needs to have here's a plan, now execute on the plan.
Right.
So yeah, every one of those, you get all the woo-woo and you get a complete 90-day plan that talks you through, here's what you need to change, here's what you need to do actually to achieve the company culture that you're looking for. And to be clear, it's not me telling you this is the culture that you should have. Rather, that workshop is about defining what's the culture that you want.
Right.
And then having it.
Yeah. Yeah. Identity. I always call it identity, the identity of yourself. Right. And then, but really your business, because your business is an asset, should have an identity to it. So that's so cool. Yeah. I love that. Well, yeah, we'll make sure all that information's in the show notes. So people should most definitely reach out to you about that. So yeah, kind of segueing into some other stuff that you and I are working on. I'm a huge proponent of connecting with other awesome people in the space. And so Ben and I we've known each other for a long time, but we talked earlier this year about doing some different things together. And so I'd love to talk a little bit more about what we're doing together in Portland, Oregon, July 16th. It's an all-day event plus dinner. It's pretty cool. So I'd love for you to share kind of what you're going to be offering at that one-day event. It's you and I together. So you want
Yeah.
to dive?
Well, let's talk about what that event is,
Yeah.
right? Well, we're titling this event the Acquisition Blueprint. And the intention of this event is that for anyone who attends, you are going to walk away with a blueprint to do an acquisition.
Yeah.
My approach here is really going to be focused more on the preparing to handle what an acquisition is going to give you.
Right.
Putting yourself in the position, kind of the planning and the systems building and creation and that all the things that need to exist to actually handle the new business itself. Now, Stacey, what are you going to be talking about?
Well, kind of the same thing. So kind of how you talked about like a roadmap for your business. So I'm going to be talking about the roadmap or the buy box, I like to call it, for acquiring, because you really can't go out and start doing those activities until you're really clear on like who you want to buy. Because I work with several different clients. I do have people in my sprint program, and it's interesting because every single one, they all want to grow through acquisition, but they're all a bit different, like on their method. So I call it the map. So that's what I'll be going through, and it'll be a workshop style. So literally when you leave that day, by the time you get to dinner, you're going to have your buy box, your roadmap, and you could literally go out that night even if you want to start making some phone calls, maybe after dinner.
I love it. And I think a key differentiator here in what we're talking about is that what I'm hearing from what you're going to be talking about, it's kind of the big picture, right? Here's the things that you need to understand. Here's the things that need to be true. And like some of those business planning things that need to happen for you to actually even find a deal, right? To get clear on what you want. Whereas what I'll be talking about is a little bit more nitty gritty. It's okay, here's how to plan for the specifics of, oh shoot, I have 50 doors that I'm now onboarding into my company. What do I do now?
Right.
So there will be I think some really high level, like 40,000 foot, the big picture planning things that have to be in place. And then we're going to get down into the dirt a little bit and look at some of the things that have to be in place for those new properties to actually work in your business.
Yeah. No, I think it's going to be a really, really fun time. I know can we name the sponsors? Could we have?
Yeah, we definitely can name the sponsors.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got Column Bake is going to be sponsoring part of the event. I'm not sure who will be speaking yet from Column Bake, but they're absolutely amazing. If you're not familiar with Column Bake yet, just to give you a brief overview, I think Column Bake is absolutely freaking amazing. And the reason why is because they are a tech company, right? Now, I'm a tech nerd, so of course I think they're cool. But the reason that it's so impactful is they're not looking at banking like traditional bankers, right? They are looking at it from a very AI forward, tech forward. How can we make all of the functionalities that one can possibly have to handle money and make it really, really easy? So just as an example, their product exists in an API, an open API format from day one. That is how they built everything, which is super meaningful when we're talking anywhere around automation or AI being able to talk to your tools or any of this. So really amazing there. And then what about our other sponsors, Stacey?
Yeah. And then we have Live Oak Bank, who they specialize in giving money to people who want to go out and buy property management companies or books of business portfolios. So both of those experts will be there. I know Live Oak, they are kind of the lender in our space for property management businesses. I've worked with them quite a few different times with several different clients. So they'll be there. They have a 45-minute time slot to do an education session, which is we really wanted to have everybody walk away with really being able to walk out of that room and feel super confident that they could start to go do those activities to purchase something. They're going to have two amazing people backing them, two different banks that do different things. And then you're like with Ben's stuff, being able to feel confident that, hey, if I did start those activities to buy something, I'm going to be super confident to be able to actually execute it and not churn out.
Yeah, 100%. I'm really excited about this. I think this event is going to be so cool. And it's going to be limited space, right? Mm-hmm. So there's going to be that much availability. It's going to be a small room. So if this at all sounds interesting, jump on it. We're keeping it super economical so that really anybody can come and it should be absolutely amazing.
Yeah. And one thing that I started kind of promoting out there too is if you have a team, so let's say you own a company and you've got a biz dev manager or maybe a head operations manager, director of ops, I would say bring them. The tickets are only $197 for the entire day and dinner. And we're also including breakfast and lunch.
Home rules are included
Yeah.
for the day.
So really cool. So I think with that, it would be if you've got team members that are going to help you do some of the activities, I think it would be really cool to bring them as well. But yeah, space is limited. We don't have a lot of space. So
Gonna be great. I'm excited about it.
yeah, no, me too. So July 16th, that's a Thursday. It's going to be in Portland, Oregon. In fact, the show notes, there will be a link to a landing page where you can read more about it and actually sign up and pay for your ticket and get registered. And like I said, we like to be efficient with time. So we really wanted to make this an event where you could actually like get work done versus just come and listen to us blab on and yap all day. Let's see here. Is there anything we
Yeah.
didn't cover that you want to share about your business or things that you want to do or highlight?
Yeah, I think the only other thing that I want to mention is we are running a special offer here when this podcast will launch, which I think is going to be next week. I believe it's going to be on the 16th.
Yep.
When it launches on the 16th, we are also dropping a promotion. And I was trying to think of a reason for this promotion beyond the fact that we want to do more promotions and we're experimenting with that. But it's going to be a limited time promotion, and it's actually my birthday on the 15th. So it's going to be the Benjamin's birthday promotion.
I love it.
And we're opening up 5 slots for a free workflow diagnostic. It has to be booked between June 16th and July 1st. And what's included in this is 100% free. We will evaluate an existing lead simple or actively process that you have in your business, identify any bottlenecks that we see, any holes, any issues, and then we'll also create a roadmap for how to turn it around, right? Here's the specific actions that we would take in order to flip this upside down and make it work exactly the way that it ought to. And if you want help implementing that, then awesome. We'll put together a fixed scope, but we're only doing this for 5 property managers, and this will be over as of July 1st. So if you want to get some extra eyes on your systems, we would love to take a look. Just reach out. Again, we'll have links in the show notes where you can book a call. Make sure to hop on this as soon as possible because we are just going to do this for the first 5 people who.
That's cool. That sounds really good. That's a huge value for sure. You guys are experts in all the things. So love that. But yeah, I think today was good. I think, again, kind of like wrapping up, I hope that our listeners were able to kind of tie in why it's so important that you have a really good solid foundation. If you feel like you don't, but you want to go acquire, maybe like that one client, you want to just get on top of it sooner than later. And then, of course, on the flip side, if hopefully you're building your business as an asset, or if you're listening and you're thinking, oh gosh, I do want to sell in a year or two, and I'm not quite there yet, well, just start now. I mean, there's
Absolutely.
yeah, it's really important. And I would say back in the day when I had my PMC, it was really important to me. I had actually used Monday.com. I called it my business brain. We had boards for everything. Every process was built out. And really the biggest thing was about the experience. I really wanted to make sure that the experience for the client, the resident, my team, and all of our vendor partners was really a great experience. So I think keeping that in mind too, even if you're not really into processes, you should be because of the experience.
Yeah, and having the experience planned allows you to do it consistently.
Yeah.
Right. I think our default is like, oh, well, I provide a great experience because I'm an awesome person or I'm super nice. And that may be true, but you're not always going to be there. Someone else needs to be an awesome person who can do what you do. And that's why we have checklists and why we use Monday.com or Lead Simple or Apply or fill in the blank with whatever software tool you want to insert. It doesn't really matter. You just have to have a system.
Absolutely.
And as long as you have a system, you can be successful.
Yep. And your company will be worth a lot more. Your valuation.
Yeah. Oh, we were going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Okay. This is an area where you have a lot more expertise than me. So tell me about valuations on a property that doesn't have systems.
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, if you're a buyer, that's a great deal.
Yeah, exactly.
Pick it up for cheap. Yeah. I mean, so number one, I mean, like I've talked about this several times, if big red flag, again, a red flag doesn't mean it's a no-go, but a red flag means stop and let's take a look at what you want to pay for that. is if everything lives in the owner's head. That's bad. And then number two, though, and I've seen this before as well, is might not live in the owner's head, but if it lives in a key person's head, also bad. So you're not going to be worth as much. So if you're buying, that's great. But if you're wanting to sell, that's not great. And then even if you're buying, it's not necessarily great because you also have to evaluate, okay, well, do I even have the bandwidth to buy that? Depending on how many doors it is and how would that affect my team? So there's a lot of like strategy and everything that you need to be looking at and evaluating. So that's a huge piece right there for sure.
Yeah. And candidly, again, just jumping in here to toot my own horn. If you're thinking about buying and you want to move forward with one of those really crummy companies, call us, right?
Yeah.
We can help you build your business so that we'll be able to handle that because it will be chaotic otherwise. It will be so much more challenging than it has to be. And it's going to be challenging either way, right? Nobody says taking over our business is easy ever. But if you want it to be more streamlined, you've got to have systems in place and there has to be an overarching plan to handle that entire transition.
Right. For sure. Yeah. So, and then again, kind of going back, if things are like kind of halfway documented or there's some stuff, some resemblance of some sort of documented processes. I mean, obviously the better it is, the more it's worth.
Yeah. Can we talk like some actual numbers here? If we're talking multiples, what does that look like on a bad company versus something that is really well established?
Oh, I mean, it's going to depend. I mean, because there's so many different factors for the overall multiple. And most companies are based on an SDE, which is your seller discretionary earning multiple. Out there in the world, people are always like EBITDA, but that's actually really for the larger corporations. So
Sure. So let me ask you this. What would you say are the top 3 things that a property management owner can do to help their SDE to be a good number that really makes their company more valuable? What are the 3 actions that they could take?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Okay. So top 3, I mean, the obvious is revenue. I mean, so if you're only charging a management fee and lease up fee, I would look at that immediately and see what you can modify within your business, depending again on what market you manage in. 2, I would look at, oh gosh, I mean, there's so many. Now I'm trying to think. Sorry, they'll have to edit some of this.
Then increase revenue.
Yeah, revenue. Yeah, I would look at 2. I mean, you're going to definitely processes, systems, like what you're using for tech stack, if you're using any sort of tech stack, because that's all going to kind of play into efficiency of your company, which is also kind of your payroll. So it's kind of all together, I guess. You would look at that. The other key factors would be, your vacancy rate. And then, of course, making sure your vacancy rate is good. In fact, I just dropped a show, well, it'll be a week ago by the time everyone listens to this one, with Amy Reddick, we talked about the accidental landlords and how you can teach them how to do some occupied staging to make sure that their pictures and everything in the home shows really well. So there's some little tricks that you could implement pretty quickly on that. So I would say, I mean, those are some big ones. Is there any others that you were thinking of that I did not name?
No, I think those would be what I typically go big picture, because this is an area, again, where I have less expertise. So I'm like, okay, we need to make more money. We need to spend less, right? So that's number 1. And then we need to build efficiencies,
Yep.
right? Which is typically most easily done by looking at systems, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And then you need to look at performance, right? What is your team doing or not doing? Are they in adherence to the minimum requirements for their job description? And if they're not, can you either correct that behavior or can you find someone else who can achieve that behavior? Those are some of the things that come to mind really quickly. And again, less of my area of expertise, but I think all those pieces still matter.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, definitely labor efficiency, especially with AI. I mean, there's so many different things nowadays too. I mean, it's hard to just pick 3, but those are things that we work on inside my program as well. So I do have my program, the 4-month sprint program, because entrepreneurs love to sprint, right?
Yeah.
So,
Tell me more about the sprint program really quick.
yeah. So it's 4 months. You walk in, and when you leave with your own personalized roadmap as far as where you start, all the things that you need to do in the middle, and then where you end up. And you learn everything in between. So the biggest piece is I teach what I call the messy middle. So number 1, I'm teaching you how to build out your acquisition engine. So I think 99.9% of all PMCs have a like door-by-door growth acquisition engine, right? But I'm teaching you actually how to build out your acquisition engine as far as like go out and buy companies. Yeah. And so when you walk in, you have a specific goal for yourself. We narrow that down. We do a one-to-one kickoff call, and then we do 2 group calls a month where we teach a lot of what to look for, what are red flags, green flags, how to really dive in, how to do a proper evaluation. What does SDE mean? Do you actually use EBITDA? Are you looking at top line revenue? So all the things that people ask on Facebook that you actually get answered by an expert. And I teach you how to do all that. So when you walk out and leave, people have already started the activities. It's not a program where you come in and listen to me for 4 months. You actually start day 1 and starting to make calls and book meetings, and you have me by your side and go from there.
I love it. And with that program, do you find that most of your members or attendees are purchasing a company during the period of their relationship with you? Do you offer like coaching beyond the 4-month program? Is there like a hand-holding version where you just walk me through how to buy the company and help me do it?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So the Sprint is a new program. So I've just launched it. So once people graduate, I will have a specific Sprint graduate community that they can join for a monthly fee where they'll still have access to me and be able to ask general questions. And we'll do a call once a month just to kind of keep updated. And then I do have an opportunity for my Sprint graduates to work with me on a one-to-one case-by-case basis if they get into a transaction and they want my guidance. But due to my limited time and bandwidth, that will be only reserved for my Sprint clients, my former Sprint clients.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool.
So yeah. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today. And I'm really excited about our event. It sounds like you have some really cool stuff coming as well. Your birthday next week. That's exciting.
Sorry. Here comes 36.
36. You're still so young. So yeah, that's awesome. And thank you everybody for stopping by the show today and taking a listen. And like I said, we'll have all the information in the show notes about all the awesome stuff that's happening this summer. And I would say just get right on it.
I love it. Thanks for having me, Stacey.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming. All right. Have a great day.
See ya. You got
There's
some
the
piano
piano right at the end. That's awesome. That's so funny. It sounds good though. Thanks for listening to the Stacey Salyer Show. Here's the deal. You can read about acquisitions anywhere, but you can't learn acquisitions from someone who's done it the way I have. As a buyer, a seller, and from the corporate side, evaluating hundreds of companies. That's why I need you to subscribe and share this with someone in your network who needs to hear it. And if this episode landed, leave a 5-star review. It's how more PM owners find the only acquisition expertise in the space that comes from all sides of the table. And while you're at it, grab my acquisition readiness checklist on my website at staceysalyer.com. Then, when you're ready to move from growth thinking to growth building, explore the Built to Acquire program. Don't leave it on the table. See you on the next episode.